Join us live on the Sherry Lord Talk Show podcast. Start your day off with the Higher Vibrational Podcast with weekly guests covering spirituality, healthy foods, and so much more. Go to sherrylord.com for more info. Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. We're so happy to have you and all our followers, and we have a very special guest. And before we go there, anyone that wants to be on my show, and just let me know why you want to be on my show, and email me at sherrylordpodcast@gmail.com and give me a little paragraph about you and why you feel you'd like to be on our show and we're a good fit. And also, we also love sponsors. So if you want to place an ad on our show, a paid ad, we have really good prices. Go to www.sherrylord.com. And now we want to welcome our guest, Lili Fiore. And we love her. She's beautiful. And her topic, she's been on our show before. And she's got wonderful topics and wealth of information to share with our audience. And her topic today is how unexpressed grief can affect your everyday life. Hi, Lili. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I'm thrilled to be here again. And since the last time I was on your show, I've gotten my certification as a master grief
Ooh.
coach. So
Oh, my goodness.
the
Congratulations. That's
subject, thank
wonderful.
you, is
So
very near and dear to my heart.
you counsel people?
With grief. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Can you let our audience know a little bit about you? I mean, we have you on there, but some of them are new that we have on here that may not know who
Sure.
you are.
I wrote a book on caregiving, Lily's Caregiver's Guide.
Yeah,
Um, it's hard with the cameras, but it's on Amazon and all the other online shops. It's 560 pages of everything you ever needed to know about caregiving from the beginning through planning for death and through grief. Actually, the last chapter
right.
is all on grief. Um, and I'm a certified death doula. I'm also a certified dementia care practitioner. So I like all the subjects that everybody usually runs headlong in the other direction for. And
Wow.
I have lots of resources on my website, muchlovelily.com, and books and things. So when you're a caregiver or someone in grief and you're looking for resources, check out my resource section. There's lots and lots of books and links and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, you're a wealth of information, which is really good, but you're also a very, very compassionate. And I really want to talk about how unexpressed grief can affect your everyday life. Can you give us some examples of some people that's gone through some things and what can
Sure.
people do to move, to work with that or to move beyond that?
I think the first thing that I would like to dispel is the idea that grief is something you get over. You do not
Yeah.
get over losing somebody's live body presence and energy in your life. When they're gone, there is nothing that can fill that vacuum, that emptiness. So it is important to understand that this isn't going to go away. What you have to do is learn how to integrate
Hmm.
the love you have for this person in your everyday life. And I have heard grief talked about as love with no place to go. And I love that because that is to me, that is a very accurate description of grief. I miss my dad. I want to talk to my dad. I love my dad. I have so much I want to share with him that I can't share with him. So I find other ways to connect with him, whether it's walking in the woods. For my mom, it's going to art galleries because she was an art historian and worked at the Met when she was younger, and was an artist herself. So what I like to in my book, there's in the last chapter, there's a worksheet, and have found that when I have lost somebody, there are certain things that hurt too much to approach. Maybe it's going to dinner at a certain restaurant, wearing a certain outfit because you remember what they said the last time you wore it when you were out with
Hmm.
them. Different activities that are just
Yeah.
too painful and are too raw when they first die. And what I've also figured out is that later on, however long it takes you in this journey, at some point you've healed enough so that these things that were triggers for grief turn into touch points where you feel connected to your loved one by revisiting these things that used to bring you to tears. So, my brother is brilliant. Our mother loved orchids. So on her birthday,
Yeah.
the anniversary
Um,
of her death, or, different days that mean things to people, I always suggest, instead of, well, first, what he does is he goes to different botanical gardens to celebrate mom and to honor her, because they
oh,
used to
no.
go to botanical gardens when she was alive, and they really enjoyed looking at the orchids and things like that. So he taught me a lot about what a great idea it is. And I myself learned that the holiday Mother's Day was particularly rough for me in anticipation of it. And there was one year, I think 2 years after mom died, where I found myself in Walmart in March, and the card section already had the Mother's Day cards, even though it wasn't for 2 months. And I
Yeah.
was not expecting to see them. And it just
Oh,
gutted
wow.
me. And I just put down my packages that I was gonna get and burst into tears and said, "Nope, I'm going home." Um, it caught me off guard. So, I think very often I have noticed, for me anyway, the anticipation of a certain day, a holiday, an anniversary day, a birthday, a anniversary of somebody's death, or a diagnosis. These things can be very triggering. And I think it's really important to recognize that for what it is. And
Mhm.
in my blog on my website, last year, what I recommended for people to do is in January, or whenever you run across this information, sit down with your calendar. Make a list of the dates. As you get older, there are going to be more trigger dates, sadly, but that's just the way it is. And make a list of your trigger dates and the anniversary dates and the birth dates and the death dates and all the dates and the holidays that are really rough. And what I want you to do is think about how I can turn this holiday, or this anniversary or birthday around. What can I do to celebrate my loved one and make me feel that they're and invite their spirit to be there with me? So, I always used to have Chinese food with my parents. So, maybe on their wedding anniversary, I'll plan and go to a Chinese restaurant and toast to them and think about, past meals with them and how much we enjoyed always going to Chef Lou's, um, or the Peking duck back in Vermont. It's, it's kind of fun to be able to just brainstorm and just have a notebook and think about, slowly, "Oh, I could honor dad by taking a walk around this river where he taught me how to fish," or a different river if you're not near the one where you grew up. And I think if you change if you change the perspective and change the whole paradigm from grief to celebration,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it changes things for you. Okay, so I can't celebrate my mom, but maybe there's somebody who lives in my building or down the street who has
Yeah.
kids that are gonna come by. And maybe I can go to the grocery store and buy her a $5 African violet or bunch of carnations and drop them off and tell her happy Mother's Day. I know your kids don't live by. And think about how you can bring joy to somebody else who may be hurting. I think
Yeah.
that's really, really important too.
Well, that's really good information and guidance for people. People need tools. People, they love information and tools of how to, and I think that is wonderful. I think
Thank
it's
you.
really, really good because everyone goes through it differently.
Yes,
And I think you've seen a lot of that.
I have. One thing I would say is, if you are currently grieving and I don't care if it's a spouse, if it's siblings, if it's children, if it's a best friend, please do not judge how somebody else grieves.
Yeah.
You do not know what
Yep.
their relationship was with that person, and you also don't know what their life has been like up to this point in
Right.
time. And very often, um, when people get sick or tragedies happen, people will say that someone was there for them that they did not expect, as well as someone that they expected to be there for them wasn't. So it's really important to
Yeah.
understand that this has nothing to do with you or the loved one that you have lost. This is not to be taken personally. This just means this person is on their own journey
Yep.
and has their own boundaries and limitations. Send them a blessing, send them love and
Yeah.
light. Do not judge. You
Yep.
don't know what they're feeling when the doors are closed and it's late at night. You have no idea. You have
Yeah,
no
I
idea.
know that everybody they go through the journey differently. And I with the way they cope with it,
Yeah,
and it's okay, but everybody's different. I know that some people try to, oh, this is the way I did it, you need to do it that way.
right.
No, everybody does it their own way. Like I tell people, you can have different people going through divorce, but everyone goes through it differently. So everyone's got their own experience with it. And whatever their experience was not the same, even though it was a divorce,
Yes,
everybody's unique with it and the way they handle it. And the same thing with you. I'm not comparing it because they're
no,
different, but it's when you have loved ones who pass, people miss animals as well as they do, because it's like the children.
absolutely.
And they miss
Absolutely.
their father, their mother they were very close to. And there's some people who still needs to heal from a loved one who has passed because they're still very angry with them.
Yeah, that can
Yeah,
happen. If you find that you are feeling have anger feelings towards your loved one who died, and this happens, right? Let's say you were the caregiver for your parent or your spouse, and you have anger towards them because they knew they had diabetes, but they didn't
yeah,
take care of themselves, and now you have to clean up the mess and become their full-time caregiver and put your life on hold. Or this parent, let's say you're LGBTQ and this parent did not support you and accept you when you were younger, but then all of a sudden you were good enough to take care of them when there was nobody else. So these are
yeah,
things that are reasonable things to have anger about. So I want you to understand that they did the best they could, even if it was not ethical or hurtful with what they knew and they were raised with at the time. And
yeah,
I tell all my clients, whether they're caregivers or in grief or dealing with
yeah,
dementia, sit down in front of your computer or with a blank piece of paper and write everything you've wanted to say to that person down. Get it out of your body. Your
yeah,
body needs you to express your feelings. It is not healthy to keep your emotions inside. And many, many people, as we go through our lives, the older we get, the bigger usually is the amount of unexpressed grief and anger and love that we have backed up. We have people that die all through our lives. We also lose animals. We
mhm,
also lose jobs we love or move from places we don't want to move from. Those things all are grief
mhm.
producing. And we, because of our society, we push all these feelings
Yeah,
away and say we have to get over it. It's no big deal. And we suppress our feelings. And then at some point, the package that you are carrying on your shoulders becomes so large, you can't handle it anymore. And then everybody starts tripping on it. So if you notice that you are
mhm.
snapping at
Yeah,
your coworkers, at your neighbors, at your kids, at your partner, at your spouse, at yourself. If you have a resting angry face instead of having a pleasant content or neutral face, you're those are red flags. My dad and I developed a term for when you have unexpressed emotions and they start flowing out. So if you we call it leaking. So if you run into your neighbor, Mrs. Smith, at the grocery store. And Mrs. Smith is obviously in a hurry. She's walking fast. She sees you. She doesn't want to be rude. She says, "Hey, how are you?" And you immediately start saying, "Oh, well, blah, 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 blah." And you start spewing whatever it is that's on your mind. You are leaking. Mrs. Smith cares about you, but she doesn't want to hear about that at that particular moment. She's on a mission. She's got to get what she's got to get and get on her way. So if you find that you are leaking, if you find that you are snapping, if you find you are not sleeping, if you find you are not eating healthy, right? All these things, or if you start noticing that you are crying at every sad commercial, or you're getting upset with the news and feeling heaviness, these are all signs that you need a therapist or a counselor, someone who's certified or licensed or in some form. It might be your pastor at church, it might be the head of your lodge if that's the kind of role they play. Um, but please seek out somebody to talk to. Look for leaks. Look for leaks. Look for red flags. Look for constant anger. These are all very, very trustworthy signs that let you know that you're not okay and you need to take better care of yourself.
That is good advice. It really is. Very,
Thank
very, very good advice. Yeah, because people go through emotions and they need to be able, to understand and move through them and, not carry them. And I like the tip about writing because I think it's important. A lot of people has no one to express to, but if you write it
you.
out, it helps you release it and you're
It
not holding on to it. That is a really good, a
Yeah.
really, really good tip.
And Sherry, as you have said to me in more than one occasion, we have layers of
Yeah.
emotion.
Yeah.
And you may find that you write an angry letter to somebody who is no longer alive or someone that you're doing caregiving for. And then after that, you find you need to write them a love letter saying, "I love you so much. It just hurt me so much that you couldn't see that you needed to take better care of yourself." You
Yeah.
will see in your letters to them that there's a progression of feelings and changes in how you feel. And you may need to write 5 letters,
Yeah.
and a really nice thing to do is to print them out, and if you've got a body of water nearby, I personally, because we've got the ocean nearby, I love going to the ocean and sunrise and with a
Mhm.
metal bowl, and I will burn the letters that I have written and release them to God and the spirit world and my angels and
Yeah,
ask for guidance and help to process all the feelings that I have written about, and that's been very helpful for me.
that's
If you don't
wonderful.
have a lake or an ocean, maybe you've got a backyard grill, or a fire pit, something. Just make sure you burn them in a non-flammable container, please.
Oh, yeah, that's really good advice. Really good advice. And people need tools. They need to know how to cope with something or what they can do to process it.
Yeah,
And it's important to have tools to process. And a lot of
sure.
people, a lot of my friends, and you have people, we all know people who have animals.
Yes,
And I tell people it's the same way as a loved one has passed. They have a soul
absolutely.
and yeah, and what do you tell people who had lost an animal and that they're mourning? They're very close to them. They were like their best friend. They probably died maybe at the age 13, 14. They had them since they were a baby and they're mourning the dog.
You
And
you
other
validate
animals
it.
mourn the dog.
Yes, they do, they
Mhm.
absolutely do. You validate them and make
Yeah.
sure that very often I've found with people who have pet children, fur babies, that there's when they lose an animal, sometimes there's usually one smart aleck that will say, "Oh, come on, get over it. It's just an animal," right? And
Yeah.
puts down their feelings. So I
Mhm.
think it's really important to remember that the person that says something that's so insensitive like that, the odds are they're talking to themselves about a death of an animal they haven't gotten over. And
Mhm.
so we reflect things that we're feeling ourselves when we take pot shots at people and say things that are hurtful. it's often unresolved trauma on the person's
Yeah.
part that says it. And so, please, I want you to look inside your heart and know, don't take it personally. You know that this animal was much more than an animal to you. It was a companion. It was a best friend. It was somebody who was always there for you when you
Yeah.
needed them. And and animals have personalities, very distinct personalities, just like people. And it's really important to honor that and to acknowledge that. And it doesn't matter that they had 4 legs and not 2, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're a bird and they had 2. I don't know, but, it's honor your feelings. I eh, don't listen
Yeah.
to people that don't understand. They're saying those things because they have trauma they have not healed. If they had faced their trauma, they never would say anything hurtful.
Yeah. And there's also some people that that, when you meet them, they're they haven't moved forward, even though their partner or their mother, whoever, it might have been 20 years,
Right.
and
That's
they
true.
still have their things in their closet. So they
Yes,
can't
that is
go
true.
into the bedroom.
Right.
And it's like they can't. What do you recommend or help people in those situations where they let go a little bit, but they really hold on, but they can't even go into the bedroom because it's the
Right.
reminder.
So, I there's a article in my book in the grief section called Hooks in Our Hearts.
Yeah.
When something like that happens and you are not able to let go of
Yeah.
the person, there is usually actually, every time that I've dealt with someone who has a hook in their heart, there's a
Yeah.
reason. There is some unexpressed grief,
Yeah.
there is guilt, there is feelings of not being enough for this person. There's unresolved emotion, unresolved love, guilt, or anger
Yeah.
that they are playing in their head, thinking that things might have ended differently if they had done something differently.
Hmm.
And so what I try to do in that is get them to ask themselves lots of questions. And through asking those questions about their loved one and the circumstances surrounding their death or their relationship, then usually you can get them to begin to uncover what it is that they can't let go of, which is
Yeah.
causing them to stay stuck. And they may not be able to vocalize it if you're talking to them one on one, but all of a sudden they'll get this cute little smile on their face, like,
Yeah.
oh, damn, she caught me. That's what it is. Or recognition that that item is, that circumstance is. A lot of people, especially with loss of a child, right? Or a sudden death. Like, let's say your partner dies of a sudden massive heart attack. Damn it, why didn't I ride him harder about going to the doctor and getting his
Hmm.
heart checked or following up after that high cholesterol? The bottom line that everybody needs to understand is you cannot save somebody from themselves. We
Yeah.
are all here on our own journeys of learning and to experience life. And absolutely, do we wish that we could go back and change things in time? No question. We all do. But we need to accept that we did the best we could with the knowledge we had at the time. And that goes for everybody in your circle who is also dealing with the loved one's death. And I have another article called The Blame Game, where you may blame your spouse because your child died because they didn't double check the brakes and the brakes failed on your child's car and they died. Or your spouse trusted them to drive home instead of offering to give them a ride if they were drinking at a party with their friends. All these things,
Yeah.
people hold against other people or an institution or this. And it's all because they're trying to avoid their sadness. If they're angry
Mhm.
enough and they stay in anger and blame, then they don't have to deal with the fact that their child is gone or their loved one
Yeah.
is gone. Um, and that's a coping mechanism,
Mhm.
just like not crying is. And
Yeah.
everybody has their own path. And again, you can't save people from ourselves. All we can do is pray and support them in their own journey and realize that they have to make their own decisions. And it
Yeah.
may not be what you want. If they have cancer and they've decided they don't want treatment again, that is not our decision to make. That
Yeah.
is their decision. And
Yeah.
if you truly love them, you will support them in whatever is sovereign unto them. You can make your own choices if you have the same circumstances that show up, but they need to be able to have have their own ability to make their own choice as long as they possibly can.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you? Do you say an
Um,
email or a
yeah,
website?
it's muchlovelily.com, and there's a feedback form, and my email is Lili, Lili, at muchlovelily.com.
And bring your book back up. And how can they get a hold of your book?
They can buy my book on Amazon, on Amazon, on Walmart.com, on Barnes& and Noble, and others as well.
Yeah, it's an
And
amazing book. I think people who are grieving, this book will be
yeah,
so helpful for them.
very,
Absolutely.
very
And
thick.
yeah, but there's so much clarity in there and understanding and tools for them to move forward. So I think
There is.
that is huge and that is very, very, very important. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Um, I think I this has to do with the current may I talk about the current state of affairs right now? Is that
Oh
okay?
yeah, whatever you feel you want to talk about.
Okay. So right now in our country, we've got two different groups, right? Two different groups. What happens when you watch the media and keep scrolling and getting upset is that you stay down here and you're going between the two, and this is all 3D. This is chaos, anger, mistrust, fear, all these lower level emotions. What I ask all my clients to do with all the things that they are coping with is, instead of being down here and feeding the fear and feeding the mistrust and feeding the anger, please rise above and
Hmm.
hold space over both these things for unity, for us to somehow come together as people, as a country, as one one group, because we are all part of the same thing. We are all connected. That is a scientific fact. Um, and it is so important because so many people, I'm having so many people telling me how they have all this anger
Hmm.
because of what's going on in our country right now, or they have this fear. And these are valid emotions. I'm not saying they're not, but please try to take a deep breath when you're scared, and then send peace and love
Yep.
into the atmosphere and to these situations that are happening, and ask for ultimate understanding from God, from whoever your higher power is, and help, because when you send love and understanding and positive energy into the world, that helps cut down on all that lower energy that's going back and forth, creating chaos, fear, and distrust. You don't ever want to feed the chaos, fear, and distrust. So do not doom scroll on social media. If anything, follow the things that bring you joy. If somebody that you follow is extreme, I don't care which side they're extreme on, unfollow them. You want balance, peace, and calm in your daily life. Do not watch the news. There's like 3 or 4 that nonpartisan newsletters you can sign up for that literally just give you the news and nothing else, just the facts. Don't watch network news because you never know who knows what, right? So get the facts you need, and then stop the rest of it and concentrate on bringing peace and love and balance and calm into your life and into the life of everybody you connect with. Take
Yep.
the extra minute to say hi to somebody when you pass them on the street or are behind them in line. Compliment somebody on their shoes, their coat, their ask them a question about the coffee they just ordered if it sounds interesting. Let's build love and
Yeah.
understanding and
Yep.
relationships.
That's wonderful advice for everybody. And everybody wants peace and light,
Yes,
love, and joy. And I just want to say thank you, Lili, for being on our show. You've been on our show. You're a regular guest now on our show. We love having you because you have such a wealth of information.
thank
It does
you.
help people, but you also give them tools and tips, which we really appreciate. And so does all the people who are watching. And we just want to say thank you for being on our show.
It's an
And
honor.
go to www.sherrylord.com, SherryLord.com, and you will click on podcast and you can get Lili's information. You can get everyone that's coming on and our upcoming guests. Thank you, Lili, again, and thanking all of our listeners. Thank you. Have a blessed, prosperous life.
Thank you.